Hello, we are back for our next panel. I would like to just give a quick reminder to moderators and to panelists that we do have a lot of interpretation happening today. So if you could just remember to speak a little bit slower than perhaps you feel. I know we all sometimes get a little nervous and excited and speak more quickly, but let's all just breathe. This panel that we are about to see navigates ODSP, the Ontario Disability Support Program, and it speaks to experiences of people enrolled on ODSP today. Our moderator for this session is Erica Zacharias. Asif Khan joins us from the Income Security Advocacy Center. Entrepreneur Camille Deondra Stewart, aka Minnie St. Clair, reads the fine print of ODSP and finds ways to work within the system to build entrepreneurship. And we have Trevor Manson, the chair of the ODSP Action Coalition. I will hand this over to Erica.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the warm welcome. Amanda, can everybody hear me all right? We're rolling. All right. Welcome to everybody who is joining us across time and space to our panel today, which is entitled Navigating ODSP. My name is Erica Zacharias. Like Amanda said, I will be our moderator. I am tuning in from Ottawa. It's our nation's capital and the unceded territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin people. I sincerely hope today's conversation will be a small step towards undoing the harmful effects of colonialism. I'd also like to offer a trigger warning for domestic violence during our panel. I'm really excited to welcome our panelists today. First, Asif Khan is a research and policy analyst at the Income Security Advocacy Center. He is one of our conference presenters for today's research symposium, and you can find his presentation on the Disability Without Poverty YouTube channel. He is one of the pros who is working currently to recognize the gaps that we see in the system, and he is leveraging the knowledge to make it better for everybody. Asif, can you tell us just a little bit more about yourself and the work that you're doing?
Thank you, Erica. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asif Khan. I'm the Research and Policy Analyst at the Income Security Advocacy Center, or ISAC in short. We're a province-wide specialty legal clinic that works to ensure Ontarians on low income have an adequate and dignified social safety net, including people who rely on the Ontario Disability Support Program. We do test case litigation, policy advocacy, and we support frontline workers across the province who help people access benefits that they're entitled to. And in my role, I support ISAC's legislative and policy advocacy with research and analysis. For example, the ODSP survey that we'll be discussing today is part of the work that I do. It gives us data on the day-to-day barriers people face and points us towards concrete evidence-based ways to fix the program. And I've always been passionate about social justice, equity, and removing systematic barriers faced by marginalized communities. I've spent my career working on anti-poverty policies in different provinces and countries. So before joining ISAC, I was a policy analyst at Feed Nova Scotia, looking at the links between social assistance and food insecurity in the province. I've also worked on anti-poverty programming in Save the Children in Bangladesh and other international nonprofits. And academically, I hold a master's in public policy from McGill University. And I'm really excited to be here today and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Asif. And we are so happy to have you with us. Camille, Deondra, Stewart, professionally known as Minnie St. Clair. Camille was the person who I needed to know existed in my life. I'm so happy to introduce you to her if you haven't met her already. She has learned the ins and outs of the ODSP policies, and she has found a way through this system that seems to perpetuate scarcity. Her conference presentation can also be found on the Disability Without Poverty YouTube channel. Um, for me, she has been a light in a time that has really felt dark at times. Minnie, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Did so well at it. I don't, but yes. So yes, I'm Camille Deondra Stewart, and I'm professionally known as Minnie St. Clair. I've been receiving Ontario Disability Support Program since 2011. And before that, I was on Ontario Works on and off from 2004. And 2017, I got to the point of being sick and tired of I have no money in retirement. I have skills and knowledge of running a business online, but I'm limited by the rules of ODSP,
Mm.
where I had to find a way to make my business make money, regardless of what my caseworker said, or regardless of the constant messaging of ODSP of it's a life sentence. We're stuck in poverty. So I made a plan and did it anyway. And it's working out very fantastic for me right now. And I get to share that plan and knowledge and breakdown. And also I have to remember to breathe. But yeah, that is me.
Thank you, Camille, and we will all collectively breathe. Thank you for that reminder. Trevor Manson, are you with us as well?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you. All right,
Awesome.
I'd love to introduce you, Trevor. Um, Another person who I feel like is a bit of a celebrity to me, to be perfectly honest. He's been with the ODSP Action Coalition since 2016, and this group is tirelessly fighting to create real-time change for people with disabilities. The ODSP Action Coalition was a group that I personally relied on for accurate information and encouragement while I was trying to find my way through ODSP. So it is a pleasure to introduce you to Trevor. Can you tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, thanks, Erica. As you and Amanda mentioned, I am Trevor. I'm a secretary co-chair with ODSP Action Coalition. I've been with the coalition since around 2016 when I was going through the application of applying for ODSP in 2015. That's when I came across the coalition. So I've been on ODSP and been involved with the coalition almost as long as I've been on ODSP, since around 2016. In my previous life, as I say, I spent over 20 years in market research, and as well, I was a semi-professional musician and played in many bands, and which gave me the opportunity to tour across many parts of Canada and meet lots of interesting people and collect memories that will last me a lifetime that I would not trade for anything. But I'm involved with ODSP Action Coalition, and we're a volunteer grassroots provincial advocacy group led by people with disabilities on ODSP, like myself. And we have lots of valued allies and advocates with us, and we advocate, obviously, for improvements to ODSP as well as other social issues.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you so
stop there.
much. Thank you. Thank you for being with us, Trevor. Let's just jump right in. I do want to be mindful of our time. Um, we're going to talk about what ODSP looks like on the ground, hopefully arm you with some information or where to find it. And we're just going to find a way to solve all the world's problems today. So first, I would just like to share a little bit of my personal story as we're talking about navigating the system. It's something near and dear to my heart. A few years ago, shortly after I moved with my family to Ottawa, a neurological disease that had been managed for about 15 years became unmanageable. And my carefully laid plans to work as a palliative care nurse came to a halt. My marriage ended. My role as mother to three was held precariously as I was parenting in whispers from my bed, and calling on my daughters to meet my basic needs in a new city with few in-person supports. So I knew it was time for me to apply for disability, but I had an impression of social assistance, and I was reluctant to add my name to that list because we know that there is a stigma attached. I expected to apply, get accepted, and then receive a monthly amount straight out that would keep me and my family living above the poverty line while I figured out what to do with my new body and how to make a living in it. So I thought that process might take months, maybe even a year with the current state of our systems, but I expected that safety net to keep me out of survival mode so that I could figure out how to get back on my feet. I can't help but shake my head at my own assumptions and misconceptions that I brought into this experience. Asif, I'm curious from your perspective. First of all, how incorrect was I? But can you give us an overview of what ODSP is and its intentions?
Thank you, Erica. And I can say that your experience is not a rare one. Many in the province go through the same struggle that you have gone through, and I'm really sorry to hear that. But it also gives us all the more reason to continue with this conversation. And in terms of ODSP, ODSP is the province's main income support program for persons with disabilities, and it is run by the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services. And in theory, its main purpose is to provide financial help for persons with disabilities for basic needs such as food, housing, clothing, when they are unable to work or can only work limited hours. Secondly, it also offers employment support for those who are able to work. For example, it provides support for job search, assistive devices, for people with disabilities to help them enter work or just to stay in work when they're able to. And so to qualify for ODSP, as you alluded, a person has to meet sort of like strict criteria. A person has to meet both strict financial tests in terms of assets and income, as well as rigorous medical review that confirms a substantial and prolonged or permanent disability. And on the whole, in the province, there are 300,000 in single individuals, just about 300,000 single ODSP recipients as of July 2025. And for a single individual who make up about 80% of the ODSP recipients in the province, the maximum amount one receives is $1,408 per month. That is $1,408 to cover for all basic needs as well as shelter costs. And if a person is unhoused, they won't receive the shelter allowance. They will just receive the $800 for basic needs. But as we see from the data, there's a pretty big gap between ODSP's intentions and people's actual experiences. And the rates are far below the poverty line. just to start us with that, it leaves a person in Toronto about $11,000 below the poverty line. So a person would need another $11,000 just to be considered not poor. And the system is also often punitive. Many people are forced into impossible choices just to get by. While the program also while the program was created to support people with disabilities, it can end up doing the opposite.
Mm, thank you. Thank you for that. Camille, I'm curious what you have to add from your perspective.
The first thing is that yes, ODSP website says the maximum a person can get is $1,408, but it is possible to get more money depending on your accessibility needs, like medical transportation. I receive $156. Then there's special diet. I now get $215. I used to get 129, but the reason I get 215 is because of my hypertension, lymphedema. So, because of the special diet required to reduce salt and lower my blood pressure, that's why I'm getting
So,
$215.
Camille, would you say that the benefits that you're receiving are those enough to put you above the poverty line?
For me, they are because I live in market rent control apartment for 18 years. So my rent for February 1st would be $1,015 and like 93 cents.
Mm,
Then my tenant insurance is $20.46. And then cell phone, internet, that's roughly under $200 because I always call and get a customer retention package. So we have to remember that everyone's situation is different. How we came to disability is different. What we were doing before the disability is different.
thank you.
And that is always something that is a short footnote or never a story in media at all.
Hmm,
And the different faces of disability, like I'm a person of color, I'm Caribbean and Black. I never see me in the stories of the news.
hmm. It sounds like it is worth doing your homework to find out what other benefits might be available to you. And if you are a person who has a house and has those medical needs, you could increase that base number.
And there's
Uh,
also the $100 work-related benefit. And then me being self-employed, every month that my business earns over $100, ODSP adds $100 to my work-related benefit. So then my total amount before my disability overpayment would be $1,879. And then they take away $81.15 until July for the overpayment. So I'm down $1,700. It still covers my basic expenses. And then if people are following me on my YouTube channel, you see every month I do my budget and every month you see my disability amount, but you also see where my income goes from my self-employment or gifts from mom, dad, and grandma or honorariums from doing surveys.
yeah.
So there's ways of topping up your ODSP to be
Yeah. And
comfortable.
this is where Camille, you are such a light to know that there is a way through, and that for people who are physically able to be working in some regard, that they have got some other options available to you. Amy, I hope you will put Camille's information in our chat so that everybody has access to that. Um, I just would like to move on and when touch on something, Asif, you had mentioned when I first tried to apply for ODSP, by the way, and was fortunate enough to have a neurologist available to me in a new city that was able to sign that paperwork, which I don't take for granted in a time that our country is facing a doctor shortage. Um, I had first tried to apply, but learned that the student loans that I had received when I signed up for university 6 months prior had counted as income, and that put me over the income threshold. Then months later, when I reapplied again, I learned that ODSP would not recognize the in-home separation that I found myself in. We are facing a national housing crisis, and my family made the choice to nest for a year. But while I shared a roof, they considered his income to be my income, and I was not eligible. So it was a really uncomfortable situation for me to be financially dependent on him when we knew that our marriage was over. However, it would have been unfathomable for somebody who was in a situation trying to escape domestic violence. A year later, when I could try again, I then spent months waiting in limbo with an empty bank account, not sure what the answer would be on the next go around. And I couldn't help but think of those who don't have a support network of family and friends that would be financially able to prevent hunger and homelessness for my family. Trevor, sorry to just be getting to you now. This was my lived experience in your time with ODSP Action Coalition. I imagine you've had a lot of conversations about realities that people are facing. Would you be able to share?
Yeah, sure. Our email address is on our website. It's also on our Twitter or Twitter X feed, whatever you want to call it. We regularly receive emails from recipients in various states of distress, anger, frustration, anxiety, fear, angst, going through any myriad of situations that you can imagine. It's almost like, I had no training or anything to be a social worker, but I almost feel like a social worker and somebody with a disability on ODSP. I'm able to offer empathy and, provide some resources that may help them. We're very clear that we can't offer real legal advice. We're not lawyers. We never went to school for this stuff. Oftentimes we will refer people to their local community legal clinic. But, regarding those emails, aside from obvious complaints about caseworkers, that's not a knock against caseworkers, by the way, because there are good caseworkers, and we know nobody's going to write to us to tell us how great their caseworker is. So we only hear the bad stuff, and obvious complaints about how low the benefit rates are. One of the things beyond that we most often hear about is from recipients complaining basically about the benefit unit rules and how a recipient's benefits, like you mentioned, Erica, are reduced based on their non-disabled partner or spouse's income. So when your partner or spouse's income goes up, the person's ODSP check is reduced for the following month. And not only does that serve as a disincentive to the formation or the continuation of intimate relationships, it's also a bit of a double-edged sword because it can actually trap recipients, usually women, in abusive or toxic relationships or environments. And that could be financial abuse or emotional abuse or physical abuse or any combination of those three. So that's something we really advocate for, is getting rid of these benefit unit rules that reduce a person's income. You have the disability. It's already hard enough to find a relationship, but imagine meeting somebody and say, "Hi, please love me. Please love my disability. By the way, if we move in together, ODSP will consider us married after 3 months, and then you'll basically have to support me." So it is no coincidence why close to 90% of ODSP recipients are single.
Thank you. It sounds like some attention to a few key details would really go a long way um, for recipients and their relationships. And we know the rippling effect that that can have on a person and a community as well. Asif, the survey that you collected showed some meaningful gaps in how Indigenous and rural recipients both experience ODSP, particularly when it comes to discrimination and access to information. What stands out to you most about what you saw there?
Sure. In this survey, we asked the ODSP recipients about their experience dealing with the ODSP program, especially their interaction with the ODSP offices. And what we found was that there was a consistently worse experience for Indigenous and rural recipients all across the board. For example, about half of the Indigenous respondents said that they were not satisfied with the information they were receiving from the office, compared to roughly 30% overall. And 42% felt that the service they got was not free from discrimination. Similarly, for rural recipients, 50% said that they felt that they didn't get the information that they received. So these are essentially signs of deeper systematic issues in the program, sort of how it interacts with these demographics, but also probably all across the board. And these trends in particular suggest systematic issues like stigmatization and lack of transparency disproportionately affecting them. For example, one respondent sort of wrote in the survey that they had autism and found it difficult to make eye contact, but they feel that the information that was being provided to them just came too fast for them to grasp it, and then feel that the worker didn't necessarily care about their special condition.
Mm.
And these are sort of like some of the biggest barriers. I would say it relates to the access. So
Mm.
people told us they can reach their caseworkers, as Trevor has sort of mentioned. They might get inconsistent information in those areas, and there are obviously long delays in getting response even after calling. So in a system where sort of one missed piece of information can mean suspicion of the benefit altogether, or overpayment for that matter, delays can be really damaging for a recipient, sort of person who's suffering, who's in it with disabilities. I guess transportation adds another layer to the challenges here. So for example, in rural areas, getting to an ODSP office, a doctor's appointment, or even a food bank can mean traveling long distances with no public transits. And that makes it much harder to submit documents, which is a requirement, attend appointments, and follow through with the program requirements.
Right.
So, and when you sort of consider the cost of gas and taxis in rural regions, which is much higher. So I guess it's worth also mentioning that the application for social assistance have increasingly moved online. I believe 80% of the sort of applications that are being submitted are being so digitally. So for Indigenous and rural recipients who struggle with connectivity issues or don't necessarily have stable internet, the digital move can actually create additional barriers for them as opposed to providing more support. So overall, sort of the data shows that the ODSP is an experience equally all across the province. And for these marginalized communities, for example, the Indigenous communities or rural communities in particular, we need staff who understand their realities as well as culturally respectful outreach efforts. That means that people are sort of met where they are. And without real investments to address those issues, these gaps won't just go away.
Right. We need to be intentional about it. And it sounds like a system that exists for people who need some accommodations. Accommodations are not being made where they're needed. I just really quickly want to point out and encourage our listeners to check out Joyce's principle. It's a call to action to guarantee Indigenous peoples' right to equitable access, both in social and health services without discrimination. And Amy, if you could include that link for us, I would really appreciate it. Camille, You have lived experience and self-sufficiency and resilience. You've put a lot of energy into researching policies. You have found success. Can you share just a couple of strategies that helped you find your way through this maze?
So 2011, I got on ODSP. Then around 2015, 2016, I wanted to return to work to my small business that I already have since 2003. Going to my caseworker was like I was speaking a foreign language.
Hmm.
All I needed to do was report my income and find out what's next. But because the caseworker does not understand self-employment, a small business, independent contractor, making US dollars in Canada, they forced me to go through employment supports. And for years, like 3 years or so, they never had a program specifically for entrepreneurship until one year I got this booklet piece of paper stapled together and it had the Toronto Business Development Center. So I contacted them and signed up. And the whole program is a basic startup, make a business plan for a business that I've already been doing since 2003. And I had to go through that because if I didn't, my file would be threatened to be suspended.
Hmm.
So
You needed to use the precious time and energy and resources that you had available to do this.
I had to follow along, even though I didn't want to. And the only good thing out of going through the program was that it got me to learn how to read the policy directive because every time I said I was self-employed, they would send me section 5.4 self-employment over and over again. I still have the copies of this one section of the policy that I referred to. And then once I memorized that, I got bored. So I read the rest of the policy. And then I read more of the policy. And then I saw segregated funds, which are life insurance products. And I saw that I could have $100,000 in there. And then I worked with a financial planner. So we set them up and we opened them and we put my money in there and I got my mom on board. But it started with my caseworker telling me that nobody wanted to be self-employed. We don't have any supports for that. I don't know what you're talking about. Almost like, go away, stop bothering me. Luckily, my caseworkers change every 6 to 9 months. So when I talk to one caseworker, if I wait long enough, I talk to a different one. Um, it doesn't bother me. I'm okay with it. So it's because I go in knowing the policy better than them, and I go in quoting the policy, so they have to speak to their supervisor or a senior person or head office or legal or accounting. I don't worry about it
And so
because
for those of us who are not so gifted in the
oh, it's a
policy
practice. This is a
department,
practice. This is a whole practice of learning
and
to
I,
not care.
I, I imagine we can also direct people to you. You have strategies, information on your website available. Is that correct?
There's no website. There's just a YouTube channel. I would like to build Disable Wealthy, my foundation, to build a coaching program so that more people can practice this, take charge of their lives, design their own lives. Yes, I'm accessing benefits. That's like a permanent mark that I have to live with, but I don't have to let it bother me all the time because I have other things I would like to accomplish. I'm 40 years old, and if I'm going to reach 64, I would like to not be in poverty. And to do that, I have to focus on all the things in the policy I'm allowed to do while I still have the mental capacity and energy to do so.
Mm. Hmm. I am grateful that we have access to your mind and your information while we wait for those policy changes to happen so that it can be more accommodating for everybody across the board. Camille, I'm also curious, is there one key rule or detail that you found um, that maybe most people don't know, but really changed how you were able to structure your own business?
So I'm going to go with the ISAC guide of health benefits that they made in March 2025. That was the final piece I needed to know when I have too much income and assets, I'm not instantly cut off from ODSP. There is a transition. Like they reward you, they give you $500 for leaving ODSP, and they give you $500 employment startup benefit once every 12 months. I get mine every July since 2015.
Mm.
There is a game board of ODSP of knowing that you've passed this level. This is the next level to eventually you see your financial work develop stability for you that you can exit. And
Mm.
then if for something happens and you can't stay self-sufficient on the other side, there's rapid reinstatement. But for the way that extended health benefits operate and transitional health benefits operate, and Ontario Drug Program operates, the Trillium Drug Program, and Assisted Device Program, and Exceptional Access Program, and the Canada Dental Care Plan. And then if you're a full-time college student, we have health benefits for tuition. There is not, oh, I'm cut off from health benefits. It's how do I plan what's next?
Mm.
Like, do I get a private insurance plan so I could see a chiropractor, massage therapist, and speech therapist? That like it's there. It's just we need to stop saying nothing is there because I found all of them.
Mm.
So that
Thank you
it's
for
just
that.
making the plan that you need to work with.
Yes, thank you for that. Is there anything more that you would like our listeners to take away?
Don't be scared of your own money.
Hmm.
Like ODSP has programmed us to be scared of our own money. And I wish we stopped doing that. I wish we had this like conversation of money is good, money is resources, money is options, money is how we fund events like this, how we do mutual aid funding. Like as my network grows and I build my Disabled Wealthy Foundation, I would like to donate it to organizations and people I believe in. But if we keep acting like we're not grateful or it's frustrating or it's defeating, I'm not really going to do that. So
Mm.
I would like to be in an environment where, yes, my legacy of not having children and right now not being married, I need to leave a legacy and I would like it to go to places that the money would be used wisely after
Mm.
that. So that is the big picture for me and where I'm at now because I've done all this work since 2017. And I would like more people to talk about money with. It'd be fantastic.
Well, great. Let's get connected with you, Camille. That would be fabulous. I I do feel sometimes that it is a system that has me arguing for my limitations, and that's not where I prefer to live my life. And I really appreciate what you have shared, Camille. I I found it personally particularly difficult to while navigating a health crisis to think critically and gather information and do the homework. I didn't have the energy reserves for that. Um, Trevor, I wonder, do you have any practical tips that you can share with recipients, caregivers, as they navigate ODSP, or where we can direct people
Mhm.
to find some practical information?
Um, some practical tips. Um, well, as Camille was talking about, you know, if you have, if you're coming from a place of employment, especially if you had a career for a number of years and you have investments, you have savings and so forth, it's important to talk to somebody that can help you, you know, guide you through that. And I actually met a financial planner that was doing a workshop at Lyndhurst Rehabilitation Center where I stayed for a time in 2015. And he was able to, you know, tell me about how to, you know, invest in the RDSP. I was 47 at the time, and the grants and bonds for RDSPs from the government, they end at age 49. So I only had 2 years, but just being able to have those tips to invest in RDSP, put some money into segregated funds, just you kind of have to hide your money, but not hide your money. You just have to show them, here's what I did. I'm following the rules, and there's nothing you can say about it because I'm well within the rules. And
So,
sometimes caseworkers don't even know the rules. But some
and
other,
so
like,
it's not so much about hiding money as much as figuring out the game and learning how to play it smart. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah, we're
yeah,
squirrels. We have to
exactly.
squirrel it away.
You know, I had a 20-year, I was at one organization for over 16 years. So I had a lira retirement account from that, from that employment. And lira is a long-term, it's a locked-in retirement account. And those are exempt under ODSP as well. So I knew that was safe. And so I had to figure out some things, how to kind of squirrel money away, like Camille said. But some like practical tips, like hardcore practical tips. Like number one is document everything. Keep copies of everything. I have a scanner. I scan every letter, every piece of correspondence I receive through the mail. I keep on my hard drive. Keep copies of everything that you receive. Follow up phone calls. If you're talking to your caseworker, follow it up with an email detailing what you discussed and ask if there was anything that you missed or you misunderstood. And that way it puts the onus back on them. They can't come back and say, well, we talked on the phone and this happened and that happened. Well, that's not how you understood it. So make sure to follow up with a phone call. And number two, I think it's important, as I'm a recipient. This, like I said, this isn't legal information, legal advice, but I would stress only provide them with exactly what they asked for, nothing more, nothing less. And if you're speaking with someone, either in person or on the phone, and if there's a lull in the conversation, resist that urge to fill that space of silence. That is a technique that even job interviewers use, that they will stop speaking and listen silence, and people sometimes feel compelled. And next thing, you're going down a rabbit hole that you never intended to go down in the first place. Like I said, keep copies of everything, follow up with phone calls, only give them exactly what they asked for, and resist the urge to fill a space just for the sake of speaking.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Trevor. We do know, we know that things need to change. Asif, in the survey, the data showed that if ODSP rates would be increased, more than half of the recipients would spend that additional income on food and groceries. What does this tell us about how recipients are prioritizing their spending? And how does it speak to the stigma that I touched on earlier?
Yes, that was one of the interesting findings of the report. So the fact that over half of the respondents would put the additional income, that is, if they were to receive it from ODSP, towards food, tells us that that is the first emergency they would fix the moment they get a little breathing room. And they're not thinking about luxuries for that matter. They're thinking about meals. The qualitative data also shows that people skipping food, relying on food banks, and not able to sort of afford healthy diets. So I think this directly counters the sort of the ugly stereotype that we have that seems to pervade within the government top level, which is that people on social assistance would use the money irresponsibly and can be trusted with money. So when we ask the recipients how would they spend the additional income, the top priorities were food. Another 38% said they'd spend it on housing. Others mentioned utilities, clothing, or uncovered medical needs. So these are survival needs, not discretionary wants or frivolous expenditure. So I guess the data makes it clear that when income rises, recipients behave exactly like anyone trying to meet their basic needs.
Mm.
And the stereotypes of misuse simply don't match the evidence that we have. People want stability, they want dignity. And I guess the stereotype survives because politicians, there's a disconnect between their reality and the lived experiences that we hear. And they don't necessarily talk with the recipients. And the 151 responses that we had in the survey sort of handed us the receipts to counter that.
Mm. Thank you. Thank you for that. And I don't think that, stigma is, localized to politicians. I think it's in our society as well. And I'm really excited that we are a group of people who are breaking that down. Can you speak more to the downstream benefits, just regarding when a person is raised above the poverty line? What are the benefits of that?
Uh, Sure. I mean, increasing the benefits is just not about dignity or sort of justice. It is actually one of the most smartest fiscal decision that the Ontario or the government could take because there's a lot of downstream benefits. So increasing the rates would essentially be serving those on housing or sort of health needs, which in turn helps to prevent the massive downstream costs. So, for example, in Toronto alone, on average, people experiencing homelessness had about annual $12,000 expenditure on healthcare costs. That is 6 times higher than housed folk. There's also studies that suggest that Ontario actually incurs a cost of $33 billion annually because of poverty and its impact on sort of housing, healthcare, justice system, and the opportunity costs. So, and to put it into context, the entire budget of the Ministry of Children, Community, and Social Services is $22 billion a year. So when you invest upfront in stable income, like doubling the ODSP rates, you actually break the cycle of poverty. People stay housed, they're able to eat properly, they manage their disabilities better, and sort of avoid those ER visits. So in short, investing in social assistance or increasing ODSP rates is not actually charity, it is prevention. And for lifting ODSP recipients out of poverty, it actually creates healthier communities as well as a leaner budget for the government. And the question isn't actually about can we afford it? It's actually about how much longer can we not afford to?
Right. Thank you. Thank you. I think that's an excellent point. And for those of us who are able to send an email, the Honorable Michael Parsa is the Minister of Children, Community, and Social Services. Amy, thank you for putting his information in the chat. Um, Say thank you, please, for the improvements that have been made to the program, and let's remind him that it's not enough. And I think what you touched on is that it doesn't all rely on MCCSS. You We can contact the Minister of Finance. He's been in his role since 2020. And he can also be reached by email, and it's going to be in the chat here, or you can find it on the Legislative Assembly of Ontario's website. Unfortunately, we are out of time and we won't have a chance to answer questions from our audience. I just wanted to close and say we have a vast group joining us today for our panel. And I want to recognize that not everybody is able to take action. It's an impossible task to fight for others when you are doing everything you can to keep your face above water. So to those out there who are in that season, I want to offer you a flag of hope. During my time of navigating these really dark waters, I was convinced that nobody saw it and that nobody knew what it was like in the cracks. And it was only later that I learned that during that same time, there was a whole community advocating for change. Asif was the research and policy analyst that I had been praying for, seeing a need to fill gaps. Trevor was advocating with the ODSP Action Coalition. Camille was existing as this example of hope that a way through the system was possible. My deepest thanks to each of you, my panelists. To those who are treading water, please hold on. Try one more time to reach out to support, and try one more time to open those doors. Leave the work to the rest of us. For the rest of us, please be aware of your corner of the world. Our small actions add up. Get involved, join advocacy groups, reach out to the ODSP Action Coalition. I encourage you to check out Joyce's principle. A big thanks to the team at Disability Without Poverty for making this virtual symposium today possible. This is literally how historic change happens. Thank you for joining us for this powerful conversation. I wish we had a part 2 and a part 3. The next panel will begin at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. I hope our wonderful staff and interpreters will get a chance to recharge. Thank you for your work. During this time, please try to enjoy the many poster presentation videos that are submitted so you can get a taste of the other research offerings that are being done at the intersections of disability and poverty all across the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Go to odspaction.ca for helpful resources navigating ODSP. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you, all of our panelists.